Thank you, Cian Corla. Can I, through you, thank all the deputies for their contribution and indeed for their cooperation in facilitating the passage of the bill, and indeed acknowledging the broad welcome they've given to the proposal to proceed along the lines as suggested. The background to the proposal has already been explained. It's been emphasised that if the offence of blasphemy is to be removed from our statute books, constitutional amendment is an essential first step. This is because, as Deputy O'Callaghan has stressed, the inclusion of blasphemy provision in the Constitution in the form in which it is included requires the retention of an offence which mirrors that provision on our statute books. It doesn't matter that there have been no successful prosecutions of the offence in the living memory of anybody here, or indeed our parents and grandparents, and perhaps even great-great-grandparents. The provision is there, and it identifies Ireland, however incorrectly and misleading that might be, as a country which does not value freedom of expression, and as a country which gives constitutional protection to a concept which many would regard as being completely outmoded. Its very existence gives further comfort to those in other countries where the concept of blasphemy has a very real meaning, a meaning which can entail considerable suffering for those who run foul of the law which supports it. Deputies Murphy and Coppinger have spoken about the need to amend the Constitution so as to remove religious references, religious-based oaths of office. Clearly, this is a much broader question than that which is the subject matter of the bill before us this evening. But the intervention made by the deputies undoubtedly touch upon matters which are indeed of public interest. In that context, I want to say in its ninth and final report, the Convention on the Constitution put forward 5 issues for constitutional reform which they felt could be considered by a future convention or otherwise. Included in those issues was one directly related to the separation of church and state. As the report itself makes clear, there was a mix of submissions on this point. Not all submissions favoured an amendment to the Constitution. Furthermore, among those submissions which did favour an amendment, it would seem that there were a variety of views as to the nature of the amendment which might be made. I believe this underlines the point that prior to any constitutional change in this area being embarked upon, the wider engagement of civic society will be required. Given the extensive programme of legislative and constitutional reform which is in prospect over the next 12 months or so, don't have any immediate plans for legislative intervention in relation to this particular matter. Deputy Sherlock, Deputy Murphy queried the retention of the references to seditious or indecent matter. I agree, this language does ring somewhat oddly to our modern ears. However, unlike the reference to blasphemous matter, these matters are covered by various statutory provisions in our law. We can all agree that it's right and proper that there would, for example, be an offence relating to the production and distribution of child pornography. Equally, we can see the logic behind offences intended to criminalise acts aimed at attacking the constitutional order, aimed at attacking the institutions of state. The same imperative to amend the Constitution does not exist in relation to these matters, as it does in relation to blasphemy. So I want to acknowledge a point that was adverted to by Deputy O'Callaghan, and I say that by way of concluding remark. I'd like to put on the record of the House that the removal of blasphemy from our Constitution, should that proposal of course be approved by the people, is not in any way to be construed as an attack on our belief or on belief, nor indeed is it intended to privilege one set of values over another. It's a simple acknowledgement that a concept which is, as has been agreed, uncertain in meaning, rooted in a historic past where fealty to the state was conflated with fealty to a particular religion, really has no place in a constitution which must provide shelter for all who live in this republic. We are, as Deputy O'Leary has said, a country of increasing diversity. The right to express differing viewpoints in a forceful and indeed in a critical manner is a right that must at all times not only be upheld but be cherished. So I want to acknowledge the support of Deputy McGrath, who allowed me say, Ceann Comhairle, how heartened I am that no deputy has spoken in favour of retaining the offence of blasphemy in our constitution. So I want also to acknowledge the importance of cross-party support in the House for the action which the government is taking. So I hope that when the people vote on this proposal, they will see the merits of the proposed deletion. I want to acknowledge that it may have taken more time than many of us would have wished to bring forward the necessary proposal. However, we now have the opportunity to deal with this issue in a way that reflects the values we espouse as a modern democratic society.